don't set aside purposeful time to do this, you just won't do it until the last minute. And then it's too late to have thought about this in the best way possible. So I'm glad you're here. My name is Amy Moss, and I am the director of your Academic Advising and Career Center. We are on the second floor of the University Pavilion, and I welcome you to come there anytime if you have further questions about what you hear today, or you just need help with the process. I'll also recommend throughout this presentation that you also are talking with your faculty in your department a lot. Because we are a small group, and this is just who I am as a person, I'm going to get to know you guys a little bit. And that way I can tailor some of this maybe to who you all are in the group. So if you don't mind, could you tell me your name, what your class standing is, like freshman, sophomore, junior, and what your major is, and where you want, or what kind of program you want to go into. So something like medical or psychology or something like that. So we'll start with you.
I'm Shelley. I'm a junior, and my major is cognitive research psychology, and I went to graduate school in programming neuroscience.
My name is Taylor Lyle. I'm a junior, and my major is psychology, and I think I'm going to grad school for my doctorate in
Juniors, okay.
My name is Ronald Zapplin, and I'm a senior in clinical community psychology. I don't know for my psyche or graduate school or clinical psychology.
Excellent. So you want to keep
Casey Sir, senior, and I'm now leaning towards Minnesota.
Interesting.
I don't know.
Well, I'll teach you some things today that can help you kind of make sure that we have lots of options for yourself. Now let me ask you this, senior, are you graduating in a month?
In fall, I do.
Fall. April, so you're like literally almost done. Like your foot's like this. You can taste it. So is your hand. Okay.
I'm Cynthia Long. I'm a junior, and I major in research psychology, and then I'm playing at PhD for nursing. I'm Aaron Bright. I'm a senior. I'm going to year left, and then I'm a clinical community psych major, and I'm going into counseling.
Okay. Okay, so we have psychology, so going into the helping professions, whether working directly with clients or maybe some research behind the scenes kind of things. Okay, so what I'm going to talk to you about today is actually applying to graduate school. Have you applied to graduate schools yet? Okay, and have you started applying yet? Okay, and have any of the juniors thought about the graduate tests that you have to take? Have you taken them?
No, I got
You're just starting to think about it. Okay. Okay, so this process is actually profound because depending on where you want to go and what kind of program you want to get into and what you want to pursue, you have to start thinking about this now. So it's really good that you're here, and the process really is broken down into several steps, and that's what this presentation is going to be structured around. Researching the programs that you might be interested in, thinking about the tests that are required for those programs, what the actual application looks like and feels like, this whole thing about an essay, because it is mucho important, like it is so important. Securing and thinking about your letters of reference, again, another thing that is so important. Interview practice, so what's cool?
The lights off. Want the lights off?
Do I want the lights
Yeah,
off?
so-
Would it be easier to see?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Interview practice, even though what I've heard so far kind of gives me a sense you might not be doing an interview, you'll never know. So this will be really important to pay attention to. Oh, that looks much better, thank you. Financial aid, so unless you're independently wealthy, it's going to be important to think about financial aid. A suggested timeline, and then I'm going to share a little bit of information about a graduate school fair that we have on campus. So that's kind of how we're going to structure this. So let's talk about researching programs. Raise your hand if you already know absolutely where you want to go. Some schools, okay, so there's some thought behind this. This is so important because everything that I say today is generalized. I can't speak for every program. Nobody can speak for every program. The only people qualified to speak with absolute authority about their program is the people that work for that program. So everything is generalized and everything typically is slightly different at each institution. So it's going to be critically important that you research the programs you're interested in so that it's a good fit for you and so that it's a good fit for the institution, that you are actually going to an institution to learn the kinds of things that you want to learn and to have the kind of experience that you want to have. And not only that good academic fit, they're about what you are and you're about what they are, that academic fit, but also the process behind those different programs. So deadlines could be different, the financial aid process could be different, application process will be different, and all of those differences. So researching your program is critically important. You want to think about the area of specialty you're interested in and find a program that has that area of specialty. So I'm going to give you an example not related to psychology. Let's say your specialty as an undergraduate was ethnic literature. It was absolutely where you found your passion in life and you just love ethnic literature and you majored in English. And now you know you want to go on to graduate school and your favorite author was Toni Morrison, the most beautiful ethnic literature writer there is, and you just connected with her and you feel like you want to be an ethnic literature scholar studying Toni Morrison. You're going to want to find a graduate school who has faculty whose scholarship is also surrounding ethnic literature with Toni Morrison. So we really want to think about the different programs that are out there and what kind of the faculty that are involved in those programs, what their specialties are, and how that aligns or does not align with your own sense of academic endeavor. Okay? So that's one of the facets of researching the program. You also want to think about the length of the program. What if you found a program and you thought, oh, I love this program, I love the campus, I love everything about it, I can afford it, but it's a 5-year program. And you go, oh, I'm not interested in doing a 5-year program. Or you may say, perfect, because I wanted to spend the next 5 years in grad school. Here's the point, you just want to consider the length of the program. Okay, it's something you want to think about. Cost, huge consideration, and available financial aid. You really want to dig down to the nitty-gritty with this. You want to uncover the cost so that you know exactly what it's going to cost you every semester, every year to complete the program. Okay. Get nitty-gritty with this. Don't let somebody say, oh, it costs about $20,000, or oh, it costs about $70,000. No, I want to know what it costs to take 6 credits every semester, fall, winter, spring. What are the fees associated with those fall, winter, spring semesters? And then multiply that out by 3 years. So you really want to get to the nitty-gritty with this so that you understand the true cost so that you can make an informed choice about whether or not you can afford a particular program. Okay? I've already spoken about this, the reputation of the program faculty, internationally, nationally, and locally. So depending on how prestigious of a program or how competitive of a program you're looking to apply to, the more competitive the program, probably the more interested you're going to be in the prestige of the faculty at that program. But I would definitely, without question, whatever graduate program you're thinking about or considering, competitive, highly competitive programs to moderately competitive to low competitive. Look at the faculty, look at their credentials. Think about who is going to be teaching you. A lot of your time and money are going to be spent in graduate school. That goes without saying. And so you're going to want to go, let's say you've narrowed it down to 3 programs, and they're all equal on all those other fronts. But when you take a look at the faculty, you connect with one of them more than others because you're like, oh my gosh, look at that group of faculty. That's where I want to be. There are 5 faculty at that institution studying Toni Morrison that are Toni Morrison scholars. So it's another thing to consider. Also, research facilities. I mean, you want to think about these things. Who has the better research facilities? Does the institution or the program offer you opportunities for teaching to do research or have field experiences? These are so important. And so what I highly recommend that students do when they are researching their programs is to create a matrix of all of these kinds of variables going across the top. And then across, up and down, vertically, you're putting all the different institutions that you're researching and considering, and then you're starting to fill in those other variables in terms of how well they're meeting or exceeding or not meeting your expectations. And then you get a really nice visual at the end of that exercise to see which programs are meeting many of your expectations and which programs are not. So, student-faculty ratios, you guys are used to this at the University of Michigan Lit. You're used to a low ratio where you're in a room with being taught by a faculty member, and your ratio in class is probably 1 to 15, 1 to 20, 1 to 25. So 25 students in your classes with you, 20 students in your classes with you, or 15 students in your classes with you. So you have a low ratio. You're used to this. And you're not going to feel good if you go to a grad school that has a higher ratio. You're going to feel a little lost. It's okay to do that. But just know that's going to be a different experience for you because you have firsthand access every day, every time there's a class, every office hour, to the academic experts in your discipline. You absolutely have firsthand access to them. You can walk in the psychology department, phenomenal faculty. You can walk right into your faculty offices and sit down and have a conversation with a scholar in psychology, right? And that's not always the case, and a lot of students coming from larger institutions don't have that same experience. You definitely want to think about that with your ratios. And then what kind of professional opportunities at that institution after graduation are there, if any at all? So these are, now see, I'm already running behind, so I'm going to have to hurry up a little bit. These are some of the things that you want to consider when researching the program. And here is the thing. I promise you this. The more research you do, and the better you dig into these programs, the happier you will be when you make a choice, because it will be an informed choice. Be picky. Find the program you're looking for. Find the program that's going to offer you the opportunities that you really, really want. Okay, let's see here. So I'm going to give you this PowerPoint as well, because these are links that'll take you to some online resources. We have a graduate school fair every year in the Advising Center. It's usually around October. I welcome you to come. You should in fact come to the graduate school fair. What's that? Oh, good. Yeah. I mean, it's really useful. Even if the program that you're absolutely interested in isn't at this graduate school fair, you talk to every graduate school there and you'll start getting a sense of what graduate schools are looking for and what kinds of things you should be looking for. So come to the grad school fair, look for it in October. Also, these 4 websites are so useful. Peterson's Graduate Channel, U.S. News and World Report, gradschools.com, and graduateguide.com. Really comprehensive lists of graduate programs and some really pertinent information. All those things that I told you to think about when researching the grad schools, these websites have put them all in one nice tidy place for you. A lot of it in one nice tidy place. It'll give you a sense whether or not you want to dig deeper into these programs. Okay. So, we talked about researching, now we're on to testing. So here's the beautiful thing about grad school. Almost the thing you can't escape. You're probably going to have to take a graduate test, depending on what program you want to go into. It sounds like a lot of you will be taking the GRE. And it's just a thing. It's a thing you're going to have to think about and prepare for. And it's something, the better you do on the exam, the more doors that are open for you in terms of competitive programs. So you really want to take the testing seriously. Really, you should start thinking about this at least a year before you graduate. That's kind of in my line of work what we recommend for students, but I personally like to recommend a little bit earlier than that, because we are all multitasking in our lives, right? We have so much going on, and so it's not like you have a clean year the year before you graduate, where it's like, oh, I'm just going into my senior year, and isn't everything, or my junior year, and isn't everything easy? That's not who we are. Like, you know, we're multitasking. We have lots of things going on. So the earlier start, the more prepared you can be for it. So even though you'll hear a year before, I say start a little bit earlier. It certainly can't hurt. It can only help. Testpreview.com, excellent web resource. Excellent web resource for all of them, really. And then there are also lots and lots and lots of test prep courses out there. The most probably widely known is Kaplan, but there are a ton where you can actually physically go take a course, or you can just buy the book and self-study at home, or you can take it online, or you can do it this way or that way. There's all kinds of resources for you. Here is the moral of this story. Prepare early and be prepared to work hard to prepare yourself for the exam, especially if you're not a good test taker. I do not like taking tests. That is why as an undergraduate, I majored in English. I love to write essay tests, love it. Didn't help me so much in grad school when I was in a clinical counseling program where you have to take multiple choice tests, but I figured it out. There's a way that you can prepare yourself for tests that you're not so comfortable with. So if you're not an avid, you just don't love to take tests and you don't do well on them just because you get yourself nervous, you really need to start preparing now. That is the whole moral of the story. And prepare early and get help. Okay. All right, let's talk about the application. Graduate, if there were one set of criteria that graduate schools use to make their decisions, I would tell it to you right now. I would. I'd give you the inside scoop. I'd tell you everything that I knew. But here's the truth. There isn't. Each program has a different set of variables that they use when looking at you and how you present to them in determining whether or not they will admit you to their program. And obviously, some programs are more competitive than other programs, depending on the application pool coming in for that particular year. But there are some commonalities behind graduate schools and them looking at your portfolio or your application file, if you will. Combination of grade point average, that's a no-brainer. Prestige of the institution you come from, come due on graduate school exams, almost always, although there are some programs that don't require graduate school exams. Not many, and the more prestigious ones absolutely will. Letters of recommendation, previous work experience, and of course, the essay. So these are all those are kind of the commonalities behind graduate schools and what they're looking for. And so I'm going to talk about a lot of those individually, but in all of those evaluation points, you absolutely want to be putting your best foot forward. So you want to be writing the best essay. You want to be applying with the best grade point average. You want to be having the best letters of recommendation writers, right? You want to have great experience outside of the classroom that has helped you grow professionally. All of those things increase your chances to be admitted into the programs that are your top choice. So the admission criteria, again, about those 5 or 6 variables, you want to be thinking about and asking yourself, how do I look with those 5 or 6 variables? And if my GPA is a little bit lower, then I need a much better essay. I need a much more impressive group of recommendation writers. I need, so there's a balance there. If you think I'm weak in this one area, how am I going to improve myself in these other areas? Okay, so let's see here. I do recommend this TIDER, T-I-D-R, application strategy, okay? Schools I really want to get into, but it's a long shot. Schools I really would like to go to, and I have a better chance of getting in schools I would go to if I was accepted. So it's kind of that tier. It's almost like what I really want and what I'll accept, okay? And you should apply to all 3 of those tiers. I have a student, a dear student, who came here as an undergraduate, finished up his graduate degree, employed the tier strategy, and was just accepted into a very prestigious English literature program. And he was denied. He applied to several very prestigious English literature programs and was denied in all of them. And he was waiting for this last one. And he wasn't sure what the decision was going to be, but he was kind of feeling defeated. And it came and he was accepted and he couldn't believe it. It was a perfect fit. But the tier strategy, absolutely do it. So when you're researching your programs, be thinking about that as one of your variables. Really want, okay, I want, and all right, I'll go. Okay. Application materials. Most graduate schools are going to want you to write an application, actually write an application or apply online. Written essay, transcripts, letters of recommendation, and test scores. Some will ask you to participate in a campus interview. Medical schools all will do that. But most graduate schools actually won't, but every once in a while you'll find one that will. Okay, the essay. Whew. Yeah, this is a biggie. Here's the thing about the essay. It has to be written well. You have to do a good job on this. And you have to tell your story. You have to tell your story because your story is unique. There's no right answer to this. It's about who you are and what your experiences have been. And if you tell that story and it's a true story and you write it well and you really, really spend a lot of time on it and you have people that you respect take a look at it and prove it for you and you take it to our writing center on the 5th floor of French Hall and you have it really tell who you are individually, that is the best essay you could possibly write. Cookie cutter essays, spot on a mile away. This essay should be about you. Now, some grad schools will have a question that will guide your essay, Some grad schools will have a question that you absolutely must answer. We're not just guiding you, they're directing you. Answer this question. And some will be so vague, you will ponder for a long time what you should even say because it's so vague. You don't even know how to answer it. But always remember this day right here. In this general, very broad piece of advice, tell your story. What makes you unique? And then that story is going to connect with the graduate school that you've already taken the time out to research. So it's going to be a nice fit because the graduate schools that you have on your list already match up with your personal and professional philosophy because you've already done the research. And so then you're telling your story, which reveals your personal and professional philosophy, and it's just a great natural marriage. So there is that. Yes.
How big of a stretch is it to discuss 6 years of auto sales as some kind of early experience for
Here's the thing about life. Here's the thing about life. Everything we do in life is important and has value. The question is, how are you going to turn that into a story where other people can see what you learned from that and how that transfers into this new experience? It's called transferable skills. How relevant is it? Only you can answer that question. I can see lots of things that are very relevant, but I would have to listen to your story to know if that's absolutely true. But you met a lot of people in auto sales. Probably some people that were quite relaxed.